So, does Australia have money blocks? I thought this was a really interesting question because there's no doubt that different countries, different states, different cities have unique stories about money that seem to feel embedded in the culture. So, I invited some of my Australian Money Bootcampers to come together and talk about how being born in or being raised in or even just living in Australia has impacted their money mindset. It ended up being a super juicy conversation around pricing, visibility, confidence, imposter syndrome, and so many more things. This is an amazing use of your time, especially if you are Australian or have any connection with Australia, and to find some of those little pockets of resistance that you didn't even know existed. All right, stay tuned to listen, and I'll see you on the other side.
So I'm Nat. I'm a WordPress website developer, business mentor, and a tech guide. So basically, I help non-techies in business basically master their websites and that kind of thing. But I've been doing that for 13 years. I think I've been a boot camper for 3 years now, or something along those lines. Been following Denise for a significant amount of time. I think we met at Leonie's retreat in Canberra. I think that's about it as a starting point.
And where do you live? I should have added that
again.
on as well.
So I'm in the Hunter Valley, New South Wales. So yeah, about 45 minutes away from Denise. I live here with my wife and my 13-year-old daughter. I homeschool, been helping people in business primarily as my focus for the last 13 years, and enjoying the process. It pays the bills and allows me to support and do the things that I want. I'm currently on holidays at the moment, but I go back next week, or I've had a month off. So love the fact that business gives me that freedom to do that. So
Thanks, Nat. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Okay, Michelle, how about you go next?
Hi everyone, so I'm Michelle and I live in wonderful Melbourne. I don't know how wonderful it is at the moment, but yes, so I'm in Melbourne. I am a mindset and manifestation coach, and really what I love to do is actually help people that are trying to leave their 9-to-5 job. So a few years ago, I was going through a really bad stage at work where I was being bullied by my boss and basically lost who I was, and I really want to help people find their spark back and really rediscover what it is that they're passionate about and find ways that they can actually leave their 9-to-5 and do the things that they really want to do. And I've always been into the spiritual side of things. I used to have a business running or doing lots of psychic spiritual events and selling books, crystals, cards, all that kind of thing. And through my kind of crisis stage, I really found that I was helping a lot of people more with the mindset sort of side of things and really helping people shift their perspective. And I guess that's what really drew me then to you as well. I think I joined with the B School. It would have been maybe around 2019 sort of time. And again, I think I met you as well for the first time at Leonie's conference in Canberra. So that's about me. So yes.
Thanks, Michelle. And I totally agree. Like, just when you have that freedom with your own business, you want other people to have it as well. And I've had one of those corporate experiences that really scarred me for a long time. So I totally get that. Okay, Crystal, you're going to go next.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I live in a tiny rural town in Queensland called Dalby. It's very small, so very kind of isolating for that. I'm a blogger, so I'm not a coach. I don't work with clients. I'm a blogger and I have multiple websites, but my main one focuses on helping women get their life organized and manage all the things in their life with a little bit more focus on themselves. This year, I'm planning on building out my website set. I guess I have like 4 websites at the moment, but I want a bunch of niche sites, and I make most of my money through advertising for that. I joined bootcamp in January 2021. At the time, I was still a paramedic, so that's my trade. I guess I'm an emergency paramedic, and I did that for 12 years. But in the last probably 2 years, I've had a lot of trauma around that, been to a lot of really really tough jobs, and I kind of sat back and went, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? So I've actually been able to go full-time on my business this year, thanks to all the stuff with bootcamp, which has been really exciting. And
Wow, that's so amazing to hear. Well done, Crystal. I'm sure that was, that's a hard transition to make.
It is. It's very much part of my identity. So I've had to do a lot of figuring out who I am outside of being a paramedic. I joined when I was 22. Like, it's a long time to do that job.
It really is. And I think something that would be really interesting to talk about today as well, for those of us who have had to make a big transition, is, do we feel like that's the real world and what we do is kind of not the real world, because not many people might understand what you do. Are your friends and family pretty supportive of you making that transition?
Most of my family are paramedics. So my husband's paramedic, my brother, my sister-in-law, and another sister-in-law, and another brother. So I come from like a whole family of paramedics. But we've all actually had a big shift. So my brother's taking 12 months off, and we've all had this big shift in just, the job's changed a lot, and the whole medical system's changed a lot in Australia lately. So it's just a huge change to live in a world where you're not attached to your phone. We did on call, so we'd take the ambulance home. So you pretty much give up your life for a week. So it's very different, very different.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Sally, you're next.
Sorry, finding the unmute button. Hello, everybody. I'm Sally. I live in Brisbane. I live on the south side of Brisbane, just like in the 20 k's out of the CBD. And I live in the world of events. So pivot, 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 and pivot some more. So I came into boot camp in 2019, the B School, probably the same time as you, Michelle, through that program, I think. And I think the community, the Facebook community has been really amazing in relation to that. And I've just restarted boot camp again, and just focusing even more, even stronger into it. So I essentially, I started to think about that I curated my own MBA last year. So I signed up for a lot of different things and went through the whole process of, I'm buying courses and I'm not doing them, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, that's just another one, that kind of thing. And then I went, no, hang on a minute. I was looking at studying, I was looking at doing a degree. And I looked at each content of each one and went, oh, actually, this is just a 21st century MBA. This is just how I do that now. So it's been really interesting to look at it from that perspective. But I'm back in a job again this year, so which was only meant to be April, but the latest, stuff going on, I said to my supervisor yesterday, I might need to keep a job for a bit longer, which is really disappointing. And hopefully, but it's a pattern. It's a pattern of going into business, it not going so great, then getting a job. And I've attached those times to various, GST coming in, various different, the GFC. So I'm exploring at the moment whether they're just anchors I've attached it to, or it's fears that come up. But anyway, so the work that I do now that I'm using Money Bootcamp for is, so I produce events, but I also do event management workshops. So I train you in event management. I have a coaching program. I also have an online course that you can just do, but the niche is making it easy. So I get you to think about things a little bit differently. And Denise, you might recall your video on doing your event in the cinemas. That was my share. It's that kind of thing that I like to share with people. Someone I was talking to yesterday, we were talking about registration. I'm like, why do you even need a registration system? Like, do you need one? We've all landed in this space where we think we need them. So that's the kind of stuff I do.
And you know what? I mean, it might not be this year, but next year, everyone will be looking for how to run an event, how to do an event. So at least you can take this moment to prepare for that.
That's exactly right. I mean,
Get your ducks in order.
Yeah, I did identify about 18 months ago, really. Well, probably more than that, 2.5 years ago now. I think that COVID 18 months, we've sort of taken out of our brain for some reason. But less and less people hiring professional planners and just trying to do it themselves. So lots of inexperienced people really struggling and very stressed out. And I want to make it fun because it is fun.
Absolutely. You can be there when they Google how to run a retreat, how to run a small event, how to run a COVID safe event, how to do the blah, blah, blah. You can be creating all of those resources now because it'll be, especially next year, I reckon it will be absolutely crazy.
Yeah. It's awesome. So thank you for what you've created because it's been amazing.
Well, thanks for being here. Okay, Sam, you're lucky last.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I live in Sydney and I'm a confidence coach and rapid transformational therapist. So I've been in business for a couple of years and I really help female entrepreneurs to move through the doubt, the money blocks, the visibility issues so that they can really smash through their income ceiling. So that's a journey that I've been on. So now I help others to do the same. In terms of bootcamp, I started in January of last year. So in comparison to some, relatively new into the group, but I've really loved the journey.
Only last year, Sam. I feel like I've known you for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, only the year. And I think I've discovered you late. So it was like just at the end of the year before I started reading one of your books. I'm like, oh, I really like this lady. And then your bootcamp came and I just, jumped straight in.
Love it. Thanks. Okay, so let's get into Australian money blocks, okay? Because I'm so curious about this. I really do feel like countries, cities, states have a money flavor to them. And that doesn't mean that everyone who lives there thinks in the same way. It's just that there becomes like an overall flavor of a place. And then you either feel the contrast of it or you feel like you have to comply or you rebel against it. It's like kind of what we talk about a little bit in money archetypes, where you can pendulum swing. And so you might feel like you have to go along with a particular flavor of how you grew up, or you feel like you have to rebel against it. And then layers within that is how your family grew up inside that culture. So to start, what I did was I just Googled Australian values to see what would come up. And the ones that you'd kind of expect did come up. So freedom, respect, fairness, and equality of opportunity. And I would say that Australians themselves, and you guys can type this in the chat as well if you want to, but like how we're seen by the rest of the world is very different as well. And I would say that there is some unofficial mottos in here too of like mateship and friendliness and being very egalitarian and not being too big for your boots. So there's always unspoken rules, I suppose, that come into anyone, into any culture. And I want to hear if anyone is anyone second generation Australian, by the way? Has anyone got parents who are from another country in here? Nope, no one. That's okay. Oh, Sally, you want to? Yeah.
I do, but I'm also English. So I wasn't born here, but I came here when I was 4. But yes, so my parents are English.
Okay, cool. So what's really interesting about that, when you're a second generation or first generation into a country, you are in between two cultures, and the UK has a very different money culture than Australia does. And I meet people all the time who, especially if their parents don't speak English, if they come from a non-English speaking country, they can feel torn between two worlds, and it can feel really kind of, I guess, discombobulating. But here's where I want us to start, okay? If we talk about mateship and friendliness and being down to earth as one of our unofficial values, I had an epiphany about 3 years ago, and I want to hear for anyone who wants to speak to this, but I think everyone will. I realized that my mateship extended to my pricing, because we literally say mates rates in Australia. So I was thinking, it's okay for me to charge Americans, but it's not okay for me to charge Australians, because they're my mates, they're my family. And then I realized it started extending. It extended to New Zealand, And then it started extending to the UK because I was like, but I come from the UK like a couple of generations back. So they're kind of my family too. So it's not very matey of me. It's not mateship to charge my friends and family. And I had to really work on that it's okay for me to charge Australians. It's okay for me to market to Australians. And especially since I charge in US dollars, it was like a double whammy of like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to charge my mates and I'm not allowed to charge them US dollars. So who's got something that they want to say about that? Natalie, I saw you nodding. Let's go for you first.
I like the concept with the Australian dollar and the UK. Most of my clients at the moment are in the UK. So all of my courses, the vast majority of them are in the UK. We have maybe a handful of Australian clients, but the audience that I've targeted in Australia don't justify the pricing. Whereas the UK look at it and go, oh, it's Australian dollars. It's like half the UK amount. I'll pay that, no dramas. I had so many people come through. We had like a $25,000 launch. What's saying with that? And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. But the vast majority of them aren't UK. So even targeting my audience now, my standard rates that I get paid, what's saying Australian dollars, no worries. What's saying they pay that, but they willingly do it. And I've had more pushback from Australian clients. Oh, that's too expensive. But then I was like, no, well, other people are paying it, so it's not. But so it's just the factor that, oh, we've got to go with the Aussie dollar. But so like the concept of even charging the US, I'm like, I don't have a great audience over there at this point. But I'm like, even that, I'm like, oh, that's a bit not quite. It's my mindset because I can charge whatever I want. But so realistically, I'm helping people. But it's yeah, around that, the factor that it's usually the lower pricing, and I have a lot of people try and barter here. UK don't even look at it. It's like, yeah, take my money. Where do I sign up? But yeah, it's something I'm noticing a lot more working with different countries and things like that.
So, and we know this is a story, right? We know that there are more than enough people in Australia who could be your clients here. So what do you think that comes from? Do you feel like you have heard that before, that you're not allowed to charge your friends, or you feel guilty about charging, your friends, or is there something there about fairness that springs to mind?
So it's just what I've done. I don't think it necessarily is the complete, that we're not doing, the whole country is not going to be available to pay whatever it is I charge. It's the fact that I haven't built an audience around it. But yeah, I do all of my marketing is I'm down to earth. I'm all of these nice little things. It's like, it's not necessarily you're after my nicety. You're after me to actually go through and help you with WordPress and your tech. But and at the end of the day, you're going to make money off it. So I should be making money off the process of teaching you how to do that. But yeah, it's a mindset thing that we've gone through. Can't possibly charge that. I've been doing Lisa Johnson's courses and things like that at the moment. And her ops manager's like, have you got a VIP option with your course? I'm like, of course I don't have a VIP option. I'm not at that stage. I threw in $1,000 VIP option and someone bought it. Being UK, okay, great. But just the concept, I'm like, it's our limitation on what we put things. People will pay them if they can see enough value to them. But noticing that a lot. It may just be my audience targeting, but I'm having a lot more people that come in from Australia and actually ask for quotes. Prices are on the website. Or can you give me a better deal? It's a culture thing that they do expect that, or that's what I'm seeing, more frequently.
Okay, I want you to say, it's safe for me to charge Australians.
It's safe for me to charge Australia.
It's safe for me to sell to Australians.
It's safe for me to sell to Australians.
What does that bring up?
What am I saying? Of course it is. There's a logic part of going, oh, duh.
Well, I want you to ponder on that a little bit, and it could be that you have a new mantra that's like, Australians are my best clients, just to try it out for a little bit. Or like, there are so many Australians.
On the factor that I was comfortable, it's easier to make money by selling it to the UK because I don't have to justify it. But even then, it's a mindset again. I don't have to justify it. If you want my stuff, you want my stuff.
And there's heaps of people here who would love to work with you, but I just want to see what opens up for you over the next couple of months. If you just like Australians are just buying my stuff in droves, like Australians can't get enough of my work. And you don't have to. I mean, your clients can come from anywhere, but the purpose of this is to see where we have these pockets of resistance.
Yeah.
And I think it could be really interesting.
That's one thing I've really loved about being in bootcamp. There's not a lot of people in my immediate circle that make money. I'm the highest income earner out of all of that. So to be able to see other people and their earnings and things like that they're coming up. I'm like, wow, I could be there. But so it's possibility, and I think Bootcamp creates that. Cool.
Yay. All right, who's got another example of that, of not feeling like you can charge Australians? Yeah, Sally, you go next, and then Michelle, and then Crystal, and then Sam, you can go after that too.
Okay, so not Australians, but mates, and something that just came up when you said that is because the sales process takes a longer period of time. It's not a consumer product. It's not like they walk in a shop and buy it. Thanks very much. See you later. You know, we have to, well, we don't have to, but we do. We groom the prospect, and, you know, we're engaging with them for often a long period of time. And because I want to work with people that I like, and I don't want to work with people I don't like, they often become friends. And so now I'm just looking back at like my last 4 clients going, my God, they became friends. And the minute they decided that they were ready to work with me, I halved the price. I gave them mates rates, and I didn't even know them beforehand. Holy crap.
That's big. Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. Gosh, how do I get around that? Okay, I need to notice that.
Okay, Sally, how about this? It's safe for me to charge my mates.
It's safe for me to charge my mates, but it's safe for me to charge my mates the normal price.
Yes. It's safe for me to charge my mates full price. Yeah, that's a big one. And especially if you've got a connector type personality, everyone becomes your friend. And so there's no non-exception because everyone's your friend. And I just feel like it's so amplified in Australia because mateship is just such a part of our culture. And mates rates is an Australian phrase in a way. So it's safe for me to charge my friends, safe for me to charge my mates full price. Or it could even be, you could switch it. And this is the point of coming up with these affirmations, is to find one that feels a bit pointy. And it could be, it's safe for me to receive full price from my friends. Because sometimes they're willing to pay the full price. We're not willing to receive it. And so that could be that it's safe for me to receive. It's safe for me to accept my friends' trust in me and my business acumen. It could be something like, I've got goosebumps on that one. You know, me and my friends, we do charge each other a lot of the time. Sometimes we don't, but it's that intention of, I respect you in your work, and you have to receive that. It's safe for me to receive that. So Sally, that's amazing. You want to say, yeah, go on.
You've just reminded me actually of another occasion where a friend bought my workbook. And so the workbook has been online for $27, $47, but it started at $99. And of course, I dropped the price because you do. And she bought it at $99, and I still want to give her the money back. Like every time I see her, I'm like, oh, I really must give you that $99 back. Oh my God.
That's such a good example. All right, Michelle, what have you got for us?
Okay, so I had a couple of things that really came up. First one, particularly around the US pricing. So I know, for example, even when I came across you and I think Leonie, and at that time, I knew no one online doing any of this kind of thing, because it come from the corporate very much, you know, the office thing and the whole moving online thing was very, very new for me. And so I was delayed in joining, for example, bootcamp and everything, because I had this real thing, but you're Aussie and you're charging US. And, you know, it was just with my mind. And then when you'd see other people and everything, and it was like, it took a little while for me to really understand that it's like, okay, yes, you can be in a country yet charge a different amount, because like I've experienced now, basically all of my clients are in America. And originally I was charging in Australian dollars, and they didn't get it. They didn't get the confusion, and they were getting really kind of like, I can't work this out. And so then I had to change my pricing to US dollars to make it easier for them. But then on the flip side, and I think Sally might have covered this as well, it's like, then if people want to buy my courses or my products, I'm almost embarrassed, or I feel really uncomfortable, because it's just like, yeah, but that means they feel like they're paying more for the product, even though I know and I get it now that it's like you're pricing what you want it to be in the Australian equivalent, but then you price it at the US price for the conversion. So it kind of relates that way. But people, we don't get that over here, because I think as well in the personal development industry, and I think this is something that, you know, I've really had to do a lot of work on, is that, and particularly having a physical product business previously, people are comfortable handing over money, particularly Australians or the people that I was around, definitely in the spiritual world. If they've got something physical in their hand, they're happy to pay the money. Whereas if it's something that's more of a coaching thing, or, you know, like a course or information, they're like, yeah, but what am I really getting for this? And that exchange of money is really hard. And particularly, again, then coming from the spiritual world, people are like, yeah, but you can't charge for your gifts. You shouldn't be charging for that. You should be giving that away for free. And, you know, I remember even being at big mind, body, spirit festivals when I had my events there, and people will be saying, yeah, but why are they charging for this? And it's like, yes, but they've gone through a lot of education. They've gone through a lot of study. They've gone through a lot of this. And there's that whole education piece that I think we as Aussies are really sort of behind the 8 ball with the rest of like America and the UK with the whole personal development, online courses and all that kind of thing. And we don't really get that whole charging or paying in other currencies. At least that's definitely been my experience. So they're sort of really big things that I've encountered, experienced, and have really had to work on myself as well.
You're so right. The double whammy of the spiritual world combined then with we have to be down to earth and friendly and all that kind of stuff. And you just reminded me of something. I still think we don't charge GST to Australian customers. I think we actually eat it. Mark's probably listening, he can tell you. And I think that is because of that thing of thinking, oh, they're paying so much more, they're paying in US dollars, so I can't ask them again to pay another 10% on top of that. And so I'm pretty sure we still just pay that on their behalf. So I totally get it. And making that transition was really big for us as well. But you're right, a lot of our American customers, they won't buy if it's not in their currency because it's too much unknown for them, whereas, you know, Australians kind of a little bit more used to it. But yeah, and what's an affirmation you think that is going to be good for you, Michelle?
I think it's safe for me to receive, or it's safe for me to be compensated for my gifts. I think that's a really big one, because you know, there is that whole stigma about, but if you give this, you should just be giving it or sharing it for free. And so I think that's a really big one for me at the moment. It's like, it's been such a huge transition and mindset shift as well, from charging for physical products as opposed to charging for your knowledge, and being worthy to accept that people will pay you for your knowledge. So that's a really big thing for me. So I think it's definitely around that. It's safe for me to receive or be compensated for my knowledge.
Yeah, because it's intangible. Yeah. Absolutely. And so anyone else who has come from that background of physical products, in-person work as well, making that transition to think, oh no, it's not just the people in my town that I can serve, it's literally the whole world. It kind of, that might open another can of worms, right? Of like, well, I'll be seen by so many more people. And as you said, the intangibility of online work.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, Crystal, you're up next. What came up for you?
Mine's a little bit different, because I have, so around 70% of my audience is American, and it's intentional because, so most of my money comes from advertising, like I was saying, and advertisers spend a whole lot more money on an American audience. So I had a look back for last year, and particularly in December Q4, because that's like the very high end of the advertising revenue. And for every 1,000 views, for an Australian audience, I was getting $12. But for US audience, I was getting $40. So it's a huge, huge disparity for me in that regard. So I've had to be okay with targeting an American audience and leaving my Aussies behind in a way, which is kind of hard. But for me, it's meant that I've had to Americanize my writing, because a lot of Americans don't or won't read an article if it's got mum in it spelt with a U as opposed to mum with an O. And I've had people email me telling me my spelling's wrong because I've spelt it in like the English way as opposed to US English. And it's very different targeting them for that sort of stuff. And I've split test because I've had small priced items, printables, ebooks and things like that in the past. And I've split test and compared whether I got more sales if I sold in US dollars versus Australian dollars. And it is very much more sales in the US dollars. And for a few people, I just asked them why, like part of my audience, I spoke to them and I asked them why. And they said because they couldn't work out the conversion, even though it was cheaper for them to buy it in, like cheaper in that the dollar was less, the number of the dollar was less when they converted it over. They just didn't want to do that. So they, like Australian dollars, they just couldn't wrap their head around it. So they just left it and didn't buy. So it's been a bit of learning around that it's okay to charge in US dollars and to target a US audience. Which I feel really wrong saying.
No, you said something so juicy that was just like a dagger to my heart, and it's leaving people behind. Yeah, everyone's nodding. Everyone's like, because is that how it feels, that we go, well, that's where the money is, that's where the opportunity is. So am I being like a bitch for doing this?
It's kind of felt like that. And so my email list percentages are a little bit different. There's about 20% of my email list is Australian. And I get a lot of engagement from them, but they don't buy anything. So I have a membership as well, and they don't buy it. I got very small percentage of conversions for an Australian audience. And I believe a lot of that is because it's digital products. It's not something physical. And I've had the feedback of, but I can get it online for free. Like that, I can find all the information for free. I can find a printable on Pinterest for free. Like, why would I pay for this? So it's.
And you know what? I know heaps of Australians and they're buying stuff all the time. So I do think that there is a mindset shift that we need to make here of, like, it's okay for us to charge our fellow countrymen US dollars. It's okay to charge them info products, because everyone I know is always buying stuff from America. You know, so it's not true, but I do think there's still some stuff there that we have to work on in ourselves of like, not that we're being a traitor to our own country, but we're not being maybe fair and egalitarian by doing this. You said something else too, because I do the same thing. Our audience is probably about 60-70% American. Australia is our next biggest market, then UK, then Canada and New Zealand. But they're quite small. And I find that, you know, I'm not talking seasons. I'm not saying this fall. I say this October. I don't use mum. I'll say mama, like M-A-M-A. And so I write in US English for all my books too, right? And so there's something there, I think, that feels like we're kind of, I don't know, putting on an act, or we're, I don't know, maybe it feels a little bit inauthentic, or we feel like, again, we have to almost deny a part of ourselves. You know, I would say my accent's probably different when I'm talking to Australians than when I'm doing Americans. And I would say that my accent's probably changed a lot over the last 10 years, you know, marketing to the US market. So there's something there that might be something about being visible in our own countries, because we think we're going to look like a bit of a wanker being American.
Huge. I have a lot of problem around visibility, and I think that's why I love the online space, because I get to hide. and I get to sit back. A few years ago, I had a Facebook post go like wicked viral. Like I'm talking 25 plus million shares. It was shared in every major news outlet around the world. I had like news teams. It was shared by Ashton Kutcher, like weirdly viral. And like I said, I live in a really small town, and I live in literally the most conservative town in Australia. It has been voted the most conservative town in Australia. So I had a lot of like, who do you think you are? And it was a car safety post, so it had a lot to do with my job as well. And like I had paramedics going, oh, you know, you think you know stuff, and it was that visibility about who am I to say anything? Like I'm not an expert. And I feel like that in a lot of areas around the Australian audience. Like in America, I feel like it's okay to be a contributor, but to an Australian audience, I feel like I have to be the guru, and I'm not qualified to be the guru. So I feel safer in an American audience.
I've got goosebumps around that. I really do. That is such a big, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if everyone else does this as well, but like I actually don't do any work in my town. So I say no to speaking events. I don't do anything because I feel like I'm like, oh, cool, I can be Denise on camera and put on my makeup and stuff like that. But when I'm around town and I'm like yelling at my husband in Bunnings and like picking my nose in my car, I'm like, no, I don't want people to know who I am. And I like to pretend that just nobody knows who I am. And I think that it's the same visibility thing of like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm a wanker. I think I'm like too good for too big for my boots. And I'm from the Central Coast originally. And when I say that sometimes in America, I think people just assume I'm talking about California because California's got a Central Coast too. But I'm like, oh, no one has to know who I am. No, I'll just pretend. Oh, it's so funny. That's a really, honestly, Crystal, that blew my mind when you said that, of like feeling like you have to be the guru in Australia because people might question your qualifications, or they might, you know where you live, or they might know more about you.
And see, in my town, I'm known as a paramedic because I go to all these people. Like I've been to these people, and it is very small, and they do see me around town in uniform, and they've seen the ambulance parked out the front of my house. Like people know where I live because an ambulance is parked there. And so talking to people about what I do, they're like, oh, but aren't you a paramedic? And it's just, again, it's a safe career. People know what it is. They know what you do. Whereas when you talk about what you do online, they're like, oh, but how does that even work?
Yeah, what is that? That's weird. Yeah. And especially if you're still in the same town that you grew up in, there's like people that you pashed at a disco in 1996 in your town, you know? It kind of feels like, oh, you can reinvent yourself if people only know you online. Oh, that's so funny. All right, Sam, we want to hear from you. What's this whole, you got to go at the end, so you got to layer on everyone else's too.
I know. And I think as everyone was talking, I'm like, tick, 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 it's all very similar. And I think the buttons for me that are being pressed are fairness, inclusion, and definitely mateship as well. And when I think about my business, it's shifted quite a bit because I realized that I felt so uncomfortable marketing to Australians that a lot of my client base was overseas. But I didn't want to keep working these crazy hours servicing the UK. So I made a conscious decision that I wanted to have more Australian clients. And I'd had this whole pricing issue where for Australians, I'd charge Australian dollars. For the US, I'd charge US. For the UK, I'd charge UK dollars. So it was just so confusing for me. It was probably okay for them. But I had all this pricing, and I just said, I'm just going to charge in Australian dollars. I'm going to focus on Australia. And now my client base is at the moment 100% Australian. So it's made it quite a big shift. Because when I started out charging with US dollars across the board, I'm like, the only people who will pay that are US and UK. And that is basically what happened because that's the mindset that I had. But it's been good to see that shift. And with the mateship side, as everyone's talking, I'm realizing that my clients become my mates. They fall in that bucket. And when they finish their program with me, I can't sell to them anymore. I can't sell to you now. You're my mate. I feel like everything I give you from here on needs to needs to be free, needs to be completely free. So I think I just realized that that's the block that I have with this going to sell or asking them to continue working, is that block of you're my friend, you're in my little circle now. I can't do that. Yes, that was quite eye-opening.
That's big. So your the fact that you have a completely Australian business is really interesting, and it's kind of cool because you don't have to then, write in an American English and all of that kind of thing. It must feel, I don't know, does it feel a bit more authentic to you? And besides not being able to charge your mates once they work with you once.
Yes, that's right. Yes, it does. It feels easier. I think there's a bit more freedom around it, not having to be concerned around different markets, different language, different culture, just being really focused on how I want to market, how I want to present myself, and that seems to be working. And but there's still that struggle, even with the Australians, around the pricing, with increasing my prices quite significantly. And now I feel like I'm leaving people out. So inclusion is really important to me. And then the type of work I do with rapid transformational therapy, it's a type of therapy. I have people on my doorstep with huge challenges, huge past issues and trauma that they need to get through. And I tell them their pricing and they're like, they're nowhere near it. Then I feel like I'm a bitch. I've got the skills to help you, and you can't pay this. And so I always go through this internal, like, I should just do it for $50, to just, so that is also a struggle I have, but I now have a referral list of people that I can send people to. And it's tough because, friends or friends of friends come to me, they look at the therapy part of what I do, and it's like, well, I see a psychologist for $150 for an hour. So obviously you're going to be the same. So when I come out with it's $5,000 for 3 months to work with me, it's just like, I didn't expect anything like that. So that also, I think, paying for my gifts, as was mentioned before, has been something I continually need to work on, and to differentiate myself as well from why is that 1 hour psychology session different from 2.5 hours RTT as well, and what do you actually get in terms of the outcomes, and explaining all of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you ever see people face to face, or it's all online now?
It's all online, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is the thing too, where, if you live in a small town, there is that unspoken cap sometimes of what you can charge and then what the industry charges. And I think there is an amazing opportunity for us, because we do know that there are Australians who buy from overseas gladly all the time, and to have someone in their own time zone and, same kind of culture in some ways is really great. And also the fact that no one can go overseas. I used to go to conferences 4 times a year overseas, and there's so much opportunity now for us to, I guess, be confident and be experts in our own field here for ourselves, but also to have people come and seek us from overseas too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the shifts for me was I started working with more Australians, being in boot camp and seeing that you live here, you can be successful here, and you're charging good money. And my coach, she's Australian, she's from boot camp as well, and she earns amazing money. And she charges in Australian dollars for her one-on-one packages. And I started just seeing things a little bit differently, like, well, people will pay. They pay her 20 grand for 6 months. So why wouldn't someone pay me 5 grand for 3 months? So it's been immersing myself in Australians and the Australian culture in business has actually been really helpful to me.
I think that's great. And then it's also being okay to not be like the best kept secret in my industry.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's okay for me to have to be more successful, more visible.
Yeah, more visible, more successful. I mean, growing up, I remember my mum saying to me one day, we've got a brand new car. I'm like, I can't wait to, tell everyone at school about our amazing new car. And we lived in a small country town, and where people didn't have a lot of money. And she said, Sam, stop skiting. You can't go and tell people about your car and how wonderful it is, And that was the message I got, and just went, and I shut down. Went, money is not good. Showing visibly that you have money is not a good thing.
And I guess there's a knock-on effect to not showing testimonials, not asking for testimonials. You know, it's hard to write a sales page when you're not allowed to brag about yourself. You know, all of those things can be seen as showing off, too big for your boots. Has anyone ever had someone accuse them of being too American? Natalie, you're nodding. Natalie, unmute yourself. What's going on with that?
They my accent, whatever. Apparently, it would seem I'm like, you're American. No, I'm not. I'm Aussie. Or it seem okay, no worries. It's in just little things that they pick up, or it's in where they think you're based. Or it's based on the different things. I'm like, my accent changes depending on who I'm talking to. I have a habit of picking it up. So I've got a lot of clients in Ireland and that kind of thing, or they come through and they've got the accent. I'm talking back to them by accident. Sorry, it's like, oh, you're from here. No, I'm Aussie, whatever. It's I've never left Australia. Or it's but yeah, have that a little bit in terms of the actual, it's what people perceive, or what they understand things to be, whatever. One of the other things is like, I'm charging for like $100 an hour, which is, I've just upped my prices. $100 an hour? What do you mean? This is sacrilege on terms of actually charging that kind of thing. I've forgotten your primary question, but yeah, we're going to go with that.
Yeah, just being told you're too American or too big for your boots or something like that, even if it's come from family or old friends or anything like that.
Come back to me.
Okay, but you did say something there that I thought was interesting is I think one of our strengths as Australians is adaptability. Yeah. And the fact that we can go, okay, well, how can I make my business more comfortable for you to buy? And how can I adapt things? And I think that's a real strength, right? To be really mindful of that. And also sometimes I guess that can maybe bring up a feeling of like feeling like an imposter. So I'm just checking on the time. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So I would love to hear just one more thing from each person, maybe a block that you've worked on in the last year, especially in boot camp. And it could be a breakthrough that you have, or it could be something that you're still working on. And, you know, when I think about this conversation about being in Australia, I think one thing that's really a recurring thing for me that I always have to work on is being down to earth. And I realized the last couple of years I've stopped sharing some things, like I've stopped doing my year in reviews because I think, oh, it's not that relatable. It's not that down to earth to say, oh, look how much money I've made. Like, what a wanker. Who's going to see this in my family, or who's going to see this in my neighborhood? And, that for me is always recurring, is having to work on that down to earthness, which I think is very uniquely Australian. So how about Sally, let's start with you again, just something that you're still working on or something that you've learned about yourself in the last year from boot camp.
Yeah, excellent. Oh God, thanks everyone for your contributions. That's been amazing. So like I said, I'm sort of taking a much more serious look at boot camp right now. I had a hugely successful year last year, yet I find myself with a job. It's all gone, all spent. So looking at, oh God, how did that happen? Why did that happen? I know how it happened. Why did it happen? And I'm doing sabotages right now. And it was really interesting because I started writing what I thought the sabotage was. And then I just kept writing and just, sorry, I'm going to get a bit emotional, but as things just kept coming into my head, all those, sorry, I don't want to do this, all of those surface ones weren't true, or they're true, but they weren't the real reason. And I found it, I can't get it out of my head. It's so fascinating. What those real reasons were, but it was actually the art of just every thought that came into my head, like someone else was talking to me. I kept writing those down, and when I looked at that list, I was like, holy shit, it's me. It's not like I had this idea that it was because I didn't want people to be hurt, or I didn't want them to be concerned about change or any of these things. It was actually me that didn't want any of those things. Sorry.
Don't apologize. This is the work, right?
Yeah.
It's emotional, and it's
Yeah.
excavating years and years of stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know where that came from. I'm working on how to get rid of it. So yeah.
So what
Sorry,
would
everyone.
you? No, this is beautiful. And what would you say to someone who is maybe, where you were at the start of the journey of even looking at your money stuff, knowing that it's never really finished?
Yeah, no, it isn't ever really finished. Don't multitask while you're doing it. It's probably I've really focused on it this time. Instead of, so I would not, like, I've got devices galore. I would normally have you running on a video over here while I'm writing or typing, and I'm kind of checking emails at the same time. So I'm going through the course, and I can satisfy the neurological need to click lesson complete. I've done that bit, and I can finish because I can't stand anything not being finished. And so this time it's really been, no, you're just going to sit here for an hour and you're going to watch the video, and you're not going to write at the same time. You're just going to watch the video and then go through each bit and just sit here for an hour and just let it rattle around in your head and write down whatever comes. So that would be my advice, is don't try and multitask. If you yeah, I guess I'm getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's my, I feel like that's going to be my journey for a little bit. Uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable conversations in my head. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, Sally. It's
Yeah.
like, it's really yucky to look at this stuff sometimes and finding new layers and looking at your patterns and your recurring sabotages. It can be really painful.
And it's easy to ignore it. Like, I've ignored it for 55 years. So it's really easy, and it would still be easy to go, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm going to put that away. But the result, I don't want that result anymore. I've had lots of money. I was in another program, and when I started yours, I started to write out, I'm a really good money manager. I get large sums of money all the time. And, all of these things that I write out every day for like 90 days. And I've sat back and started reading back on those and noticing in that, yeah, I actually do get large sums of money all the time. So I can make money really easily. I think that's probably my money drop moment, is I can make money, no problem. I just can't keep it. So anyway, I'll let someone else talk.
But that's the next level, right? That's the next thing to work on. And sometimes with the excavation work, it creates a little landslide that makes things a little bit worse in some areas for a while. And then sometimes you're just working on one bit for a bit and you've ignored that it's still shit over here. So it's the work, right? And you're doing it. You're on the journey.
So thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. No, it's good. I'm not scared of tears. We love it. Thanks, Sally. I so appreciate it. Really do. All right, Michelle, you're next.
Okay, so this has probably been a really big one for a couple of years for me, is that the thing that I've had to really continue to work on is that it's safe for me to have nice things. It's safe for me to earn money.
Okay, Crystal, what's your final thoughts about just something that still might be recurring, or something you've worked on in boot camp that you want to share, or any words for people who are thinking of joining a similar situation to you?
So for me, it's about the visibility thing. So it's safe for me to be visible. I had this thing. So when Mara asked me to do a video testimonial for bootcamp, I'd recorded it. And I literally dropped my phone on my brand new laptop and did $1,000 worth of damage. So it's these things that keep coming up, like these little sabotages. And I'm just like, universe, what are you trying to tell me? Like, this is a big thing. So it's about putting myself out there and being visible. I've wanted to do a lot of stuff. I've wanted to do my YouTube channel and things like that. But I just feel like I don't have the perfect situation, or I don't have the perfect environment, or my hair's not right, or I don't look right, or my accent's not right. So really just being okay with being visible and putting myself out there. And a lot of that comes back to being okay with who I am and figuring out who I am. I've always been the kind of person who puts everybody else first and will do anything to make anybody else happy, and whatever everybody else's needs are, like whether it's my husband or my kids or anything, like I've kind of always just fit in, and always felt the need to fit in. And that's something that I guess bootcamp has opened up a whole world of other things that I need to work on. So it's like the money layer, and the whole thing with money mindset is like that top layer. And then it kind of opens up all this other stuff. It's like, okay, well, this money thing's connected to this, but it's also causing this, and this in my life. So I've got to clear all that as well. So it's been really eye-opening for that. And yeah, just the visibility thing. It's safe for me to be seen. Huge thing.
Yeah, that sounds like it's a really big one. And it's safe for me to be seen by Australians, or it's safe for me to be seen by, as you said, people who don't need to put me on a pedestal, or yeah, I can see that's a really big one. All right, Natalie, do you want to go next?
So a few things that I've been working on for some time. Obviously the charging, what's in my rates rather than what I think other people are going to pay. Charging for the things that I know, what's as that I've been doing it for 13 years. It's like I can do it in my sleep, or that might only take you a small amount of time, but what's it's a case of you're paying for my experience to do it. The other thing that I've really loved about being or a part of bootcamp, as I said, I'm the highest earner in my family. So it's I'm the only one doing their thing in terms of actually doing what they want to do and that kind of thing. But being able to actually go through and actually see other people making big money. It's like if you were solely based on that concept that you're surrounded by how many people, or the people that you're surrounded by, if you're the one that's making the most, you need to go to a new room. Bootcamp is my room. But it meant that I can actually go in there and see what other people are doing. Even just seeing it means that it's possible, because it's even other people's stories and things like that. It's like I started with nothing, or someone doing this X, Y, and Z. This year, or actually last year, my wife and I became a carer for my wife. She's got mental health issues. I've got to lead, so that wasn't expected. I've got to make sure that I'm actually leading, but being the only person in my circle that's leading, there's no one else to look up to or to look at for different things. Bootcamp gives me that, but I've written notes because I knew I'd get upset. But there's others that are more advanced than I am. I love the fact that it's no promo in the group. I love the fact that it's not just there to siphon clients. It's you can be authentic. I'm like, so many of my clients are like, I saw you in bootcamp. I'm like, oh shit. But just the fact that I'm like, I can be authentic in what I'm doing. Sometimes it sucks being in business. Other days it's like, wow, I've decluttered my shit and money's falling from the sky at this point. But it's there for you when you're in your high and the lows. So it's you siphon out all the different things that are going on. A lot of the things that I found going through bootcamp, and I'll continue to keep going back, there's always another money or level. Got to go through that upper glass ceiling or whatever you want to go through. Mine's a little bit thicker than usual. I've been butting heads with it for a while. One of the big things that I had in regards to GST, I spent probably 10, 11 years. Holy crap, GST is scary. I'm not doing it. I'm like, I'm just going to register for it. Even if I don't hit it, I'm like, the next month I earn 20 grand more and I hit like 92,000. I'm like, for the last however long, I'm like, these limitations. I'm like, these people around me are actually making shitloads of money. Oh, Deesh, you're the only person I know in actual real life that actually makes a decent amount of money, or a shitload of money in South Africa. But just the fact that it's safe for me to actually go through and do that, because there are others that have already done it. I shouldn't need someone else to already do it, but it's safer, or it feels safer knowing that other people are actually doing that. But the visibility factor, and the fact that we do have, or the things that I'm going to have to work on. Ridiculous, the concept, you're like, it's Australian clients are coming in droves. I'm like, they could be. Why does their location matter? But again, the culture and all these mindset things, it's working on those elements. The other thing that I really love is the EFT process, and actually tapping out all the bits and pieces that are coming through. I did EFT beforehand. I'm really woo-woo in all of that. I've got a wall full of oracle cards and crystals and all that sort of fun stuff. But it's always been something that's there, but it's safe to do that in the community, and it's not, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I have an anxiety attack and I'm sitting there, that's in the car. So EFT, it's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just going through it. But my daughter's now started picking up some of the stuff that she's 13 going on 14. She's like, it's your time. What's you ready for the next step? That's Denise you're listening to. I'm like, I love the fact that she's picking up those things. And then the generations of, for example, my family not having money, we have money, it's okay. I can ask for things or she can ask for things. It's a roll-on effect with some of the work that we're doing. So I think that's most of all of it. But yeah, I'm just really grateful to be a part of it. It's made such a difference, and I can see possibility of being able to do these things. So yeah, thank you, my love. Much appreciated.
Wow, that was so cool. And you know what you were just saying there about it is lonely being in business. And, you know, we're kind of going into this space where suddenly we are the wealthiest people we know, or we're resisting it. And because it feels against the natural order of things sometimes, or it feels like it will be a big responsibility, or it will be scary in some way. And it's really cool that we can just encourage each other. It's just money. And it's okay, and you can handle it. And
that concept of earning more than your parents, that was a big one. But it's like, they don't even discuss it. I didn't even know how much my father made. Up until just recently, it's like, oh wow, I've doubled that, and I'm not trying. It's just happening. Because I'm doing what I do and what I love. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I really look forward to being a part of it for longer.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalie. And yeah, I hope your wife feels better soon. I know it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I've had mental health issues myself, but you know, it's one of those things where you go, money solves problems, and it doesn't fix things, but it makes it so much easier to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Like having some money, even just meds or help, or you know, help around the house. Like it all costs money to do that. And you know, we're never going to be perfect no matter how much money we make, but it's shitload easier.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, and Sam, what would you like to say?
So the things that I will continue to work on are charging high prices. It's safe for me to charge high prices to everyone, including friends, and to hold on to that money as well. So I tend to be able to attract money quite easily. I can receive it, but as soon as I get it, I like to spend it. So I don't actually have a lot of cash a lot of the time. So that's something that I'll continue to work on. And in terms of bootcamp, it's been the best investment. I've actually just loved it so much. I think that the material and the actual course itself, it has been put together so well. I love the short snapshot videos, but I love the transcription because I like to read. So it's really easy to make your way through each of the modules without getting stuck on the fact that you have to watch an hour or an hour and a half long video. And the exercises are easy but really impactful. So I love to sort of dip back into negative consequences and doing my decluttering and having that at the front of my mind, like what's really happening in my mind, what do I need to reframe to? And the community itself is brilliant because there's people just starting out in business, there's people earning multi-millions. So there's always a heap of people in there that are at your stage in business and have been in your spot that can help you. And personally, I like to go in and share, hey, I just hit this income goal, where I may not feel as comfortable doing that in my Facebook group or my personal page or wherever it might be, because I come back to that, you're showing off, tall poppy syndrome. So it's such a safe and wonderful community to share and get support. And as was mentioned, not having people promoting in there makes it feel much more authentic within that space. So thank you very much, Denise.
Hey, it's Denise again. Wasn't that a fascinating conversation? And some of the places that we went was honestly unexpected. I knew we were going to talk about mates rates and pricing and things like that, but even talking about how imposter syndrome and confidence issues was, I thought, really, really fascinating. So maybe as you were listening, you realized that you have some money blocks as well. And that is honestly really, really normal. We all do. And as you heard, I also have to work on my money blocks all the time. So if you want this year to be amazing for you, you have to look at your pockets of resistance. You have to look at some of those areas where you're holding yourself back. And that's exactly how I can help you in Money Bootcamp.